blistering heart of ancient Arabia, where the sun scorched the sands into waves of fire and the winds whispered forgotten prophecies, a shadow marched from the south. It was not the shadow of a caravan or a desert storm. It was the shadow of steel, hoofs, and ambition. At its center stood Abraha al-Ashram, the Christian viceroy of Yemen, and he had come not to trade, but to conquer. Abraha's eyes burned with zeal. Appointed by the Abyssinian king Negus to rule over Yemen, he had built in Sana'a a majestic cathedral, al-Qulays, meant to rival the grandeur of the Kaaba in Mecca. But the Arabs, proud and tribal, refused to be swayed. Pilgrims continued to flock to the Kaaba, paying no heed to his cathedral of stone and cross. Humiliated and enraged, Abraha vowed revenge. He would not merely defeat the Quraysh who protected the Kaaba, he would erase their symbol of worship. He would demolish the Kaaba itself, reducing it to rubble so all would turn their faces toward his cathedral in Yemen. And so, the elephant army was summoned, the assembly of doom. They came in thousands, foot soldiers, cavalry, archers, and beasts. War drums echoed across the hills. Swords were sharpened, standards raised. But towering above all was the terror of Arabia, a colossal elephant named Mahmud. Never had the tribes seen such a creature, a walking mountain of muscle and ivory. Chained and armored, Mahmud was the symbol of Abraha's might, the instrument of his wrath. As the army began its northward march, tales of the coming destruction spread like wildfire. Villagers abandoned their homes. Tribes fled before them. No army dared to oppose them. Abraha crushed every small resistance, city by city, oasis by oasis. But among the whispers of fear, a murmur of divine reckoning began to rise. The last plea word reached Mecca before the army did. Panic spread through the Quraysh. Many wanted to defend the Kaaba with their lives, but others knew the futility. Against trained soldiers, foreign cavalry, and war elephants, what could camel herders and merchants do? The custodian of the Kaaba at the time was Abdul Muttalib, a man of regal presence and deep wisdom, grandfather of a boy named Muhammad, yet to be born into prophecy. He did not gather weapons nor summon fighters. Instead, he made his way to Abraha's camp, hoping for a final plea. Abraha received him in his tent, draped in robes of gold. Seated atop lion skins, the warlord sneered at the old man. "You've come to beg for your temple?" he asked. "I come for my camels," Abdul Muttalib said, calm and composed. "Your soldiers seized them," Abraha scoffed. "You care for your camels, but not for your house of worship." Abdul Muttalib's eyes glinted with faith. "I am the master of the camels, so I ask for what I own. The house has its own master. He will protect it." Abraha laughed, dismissing the old man with a wave. But something in those words, something in that unwavering confidence, unsettled him. Still, he gave the order. March at dawn. The sky that roared. The morning was still. The sands lay silent. Birds did not sing. Even the wind held its breath. Abraha's army assembled at the edge of Mecca. Mahmud stood at the front, armor gleaming. Soldiers readied their weapons. Trumpets of war began to sound. But when they ordered Mahmud to march toward the Kaaba, he refused. They shouted, beat drums, pulled his chains, but Mahmud knelt, snorted, and turned away. They tried steering him east. He moved. West, he moved. But toward Mecca, he would not take a single step. Then, from the blue, cloudless sky, a blackness appeared on the horizon. Not a sandstorm, not smoke. Birds. Thousands. Tiny, swift birds, known in legend as Ababil. Each carried in its beak and claws a pebble, no larger than a lentil. But these were no ordinary stones. They were marked by divine wrath. They descended in formation, like arrows shot from heaven. And then they fell. The wrath of heaven, screams filled the air. The first wave of stones struck men and beasts with supernatural force. Flesh was torn, armor shattered. Where a stone landed, the soldier beneath it died. His body blistered, blackened, and rotted. The second wave brought chaos. Horses fled, elephants panicked, men trampled each other in confusion. Mahmud, the mighty elephant, stood frozen, unharmed, unmoving, as if aware of divine boundaries. Abraha tried to rally his men, but his voice was drowned by terror. Pebbles rained from the sky like a storm of fire. Blood soaked the sands. The war drums were silenced by the cries of agony. Soldiers fled south, abandoning their dead and dying, but the plague followed them. Those struck by stones withered with fever and sores, limbs decaying, skin sloughing. Even Abraha, the mighty warlord, was not spared. As he escaped toward Yemen, his flesh began to rot, his fingers blackened, his eyes clouded. Each step was a crawl through torment. By the time he reached Sana'a, he was barely a man, more a husk, dying of divine punishment. Within days, Abraha perished. His army never returned. The aftermath: not a single stone of the Kaaba had been touched. Mecca stood untouched, unmarred, under the protection of the unseen. The Quraysh, once trembling, now whispered of miracles. Travelers who heard the tale at desert wells and caravan inns spoke of the year of the elephant, a year marked not by conquest, but by heaven's wrath and protection. That same year, in the blessed valley of Mecca, a boy was born, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, whose name would echo across the world. But on the day of his birth, the skies had already spoken. Legacy of the Elephant Army. The story of Abraha's defeat would not vanish into myth. It was etched into memory, recited in verse, and revealed in divine scripture. The Quran, in its 105th chapter, Surah Al-Fil, asks, "Have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant? Did he not make their plan go astray and sent upon them flocks of birds, striking them with stones of baked clay, and made them like eaten straw?" Surah Al-Fil 105, 1-5. No historian, priest, or poet could ignore the tale. Some dismissed it as allegory, others accepted it as divine fact. But even skeptics could not deny this. Abraha's campaign ended in disaster, not from man's resistance, but from a force unseen, an intervention not of armies, but of the heavens, echoes in time. The tale of Abraha and his elephant was passed from tongue to tongue, carried by wind and wanderer. It became more than history, its teaching became warning. Kings who sought to defile the sacred were reminded of Abraha. Empires that marched in arrogance were told of Mahmud's refusal. And every child born in Mecca, when seeing the Kaaba's black stone and sacred walls, would remember that no matter the might of an army, the will of the divine prevails. Even the mightiest elephant must kneel before the unseen hand of justice.